So, yeah, let's end this.
The next time we visit the Citadel embassy post-Rannoch, we encounter Counselor Irissa overseeing a C-Sec investigation in Udina's office, where the narrative at least admits Udina's Cerberus-supported coup was bullshit. However, Irissa gets straight to business and reveals one of the Asari's closest guarded secrets. They have a significant Prothean artifact that might help in completing the Crucible, which they've kept secret simply because it's been one of the keys to their supremacy in the galaxy, which the higher-ups didn't want to upset.
Like I said, it's a conspiracy theory partially validated through this game that the Asari were conquering the galaxy through diplomacy and general genetic integration, their dominance assured by superior tech abilities.
Irissa is, of course, a pragmatist, and knows the Asari getting their shit wrecked if the other races fall will not end in that level of good. And we learn this just as the Asari homeworld, Thessia, of course falls under attack. The flavor text for Thessia annoys the crap out of me, simply because it depicts how the Reapers should be operating everywhere. Disable transport and infrastructure to leave the populace helpless during the process of indoctrination, and yet we never, not once, see this at any point from them from how we see them attack in the game, where they just land somewhere and blast everything to rubble.
That is not prioritizing a military infrastructural target, that is attacking indiscriminately!
The Counselor's given location is the Temple of Athme, an individual the Asari worship as the goddess, who of course was a Prothean who experimented on their ancestors.
In fact, the entire religion is a government fabrication to cover the fact they've always had direct access to Prothean technology, when it really didn't need to be either. I mean, look at the Hanar over there. They worship the Protheans. It's not unreasonable for, even as a lore expansion, to say the Asari were actually doing the same thing and knew Atmi was a Prothean. That's not unreasonable at all.
But that's only learned after a long, tedious slog through more enemy forces where nothing at all interesting happens. Not even the Asari trying and failing to defend their world brings any interest to me. But this just raises so many questions with me. Why did they deny the Reaper threat? Why have they not tried to prepare, or tell the other governments, yeah, we were worried about this, but can't let the public know or it will cause panic? Instead of having everyone and thing deny everything all the way down the line. Or did the Prothean Beacon, Prothean VI, not tell them about the Reapers at all? Well, that's foolish, since it contains a Prothean VI program that has to have guided them in the first place. Furthermore, why hide this beacon in a statue like this, especially in public? At the very least, the Mars Archive is a structure that cannot be moved.
And moreover, if this thing is what gives them a technological advantage over other races, I'd like to ask what technological advantage they had in the first place. The Asari only have their biotics, and most of their ships are ridiculously enormous for the amount of shielding and firepower they put out. Most technological advancement over the centuries has tended to come from the other races. Hell, the Volus are the ones that set up the galactic economy. The Krogan and Turians in turn covered the military, whereas most Asari were content to sit back and let everyone else do stuff. So, if they have such an advantage, then they've never seen fit to showcase it or use such.
Hell, this is further backed up from statements we got from Aethita last game about the Matriarchy being so up their own asses about their superiority, they've missed the fact that pretty much every race is on even terms with them technologically, when for centuries they've supposedly had the capacity to try and construct their own mass relays.
And remembrance of that point is the only reason I never call bullshit on the extended destruction endings rebuilding of the relays in Citadel.
Moreover, why would they need an explanation for the technological advantage? Asari lived for 1,000 years. Their greatest minds would be around for multitudes longer than our brightest thinkers.
I mean, look at us. Humans take about 20 to 30 years to educate, then at best we're good for around that time again before age begins to take our sanity. That isn't a problem with Asari. I mean, look at Liara. She's over 100, the brightest mind in her field, and in 3 years went from being a naive archaeologist to a high-tier information dealer before becoming the Shadow Broker. Arya's run Omega for centuries without problem, and even Trainer and her rival in the Citadel DLC, the only reason the little human had trouble matching up is because of the enormous experience advantage other races outside of the Krogan cannot compete with. Really, what can be the Asari's disadvantage is that age makes them stagnant thinkers set in their ways. But with regards to technological advancement, where constant work with bright minds over centuries to allow advancement, especially over 2,000 freaking years they've managed Citadel space, that should not be a problem!
So what this really does is add another race to the assassination pile we've been experiencing for everyone with this game by portraying the entire species, not the politicians as was my original critique, as idiots! And it's done as a throwaway part of the story where you could ignore it entirely if it was not that damning of a retcon in how it affects all past readings of the species.
Though, again, this game seems to do that with almost everyone. So it's unlikely they intentionally singled out the monogendered but identify as female race of space babes for misogynistic backstory deconstruction. With the backlash BioWare has gotten to horrible depictions of diversity, I like to think they'd be better than that.
But bringing Javik along, as I did, makes it clear. The Asari are longtime liars whose refusal to acknowledge threats or danger have gone back to bite a lot of people. Access to the beacon is hidden in fabricated artifacts, which releases the Prothean VI, who proceeds to waste time instead of giving us the answer. Where is the catalyst? Though it does at least tell us the Protheans finished a working version of the Crucible. It's been passed on generationally through the cycles for a long time. It's just they were disabled from using it by indoctrinated forces that wanted to use it to dominate the Reapers in turn.
Sounds familiar.
But before it can give us an answer, or transmit the information to an Omni-tool, Kai Lang shows up and reveals he killed the scientists here.
How? We walked through a war zone to even get here. There was a protective barrier around the shrine. And if you did, then why did you not steal everything and leave in the first place?
This leads to another pointless argument with Harper that advances and says absolutely nothing, and only once more shows Shepard as an imbecile when he doesn't call Harper on his crap. God, I missed the Vermeer fight with Saren. Before another fight with Lang, this time with us actually being allowed to fight him, as he proceeds to curb stomp us. For the love of God, when his shields get low, he crouches in open cover and becomes invulnerable to damage while he recharges his fucking shields. That is not how shields work!
I will remind you, he couldn't kick the ass of the terminally ill Thane. And Thane was supposed to be on our level. We have 2 biotics that can paralyze and then blow him up in gravity fields. I have 3 types of debilitating ammo, and assassins by trade are not supposed to be heavily armed. How are we not kicking this guy's ass?
Plot contrivance? Ho! The floor collapses for us, but not for him. Lang gets the VI because of our unjustified incompetence, which is supposed to be a big, emotionally full, he's lost total confidence in himself moment, but it never connects due to how the entire fight was a cheap curb stomp fight. We weren't outwitted, we weren't really outfought, he just had the victory narratively given to him. And likewise, we are just narratively given the ability to track Lang to his destination, something we have not been able to do before. So, congratulations! We now have the location of Cerberus HQ.
Or not, because Lang didn't take it to Cerberus' HQ, he took it to the Sanctuary Facility, which is a haven for war refugees.
Yeah, this is yet another thing brought up out of nowhere where that doesn't make a lick of sense. A place like this that is taking in all these people should be a prime target for Reaper attacks using the modus operandi they have been this game in striking population centers.
And worse, it's not even a good facility for that, as it's above ground, thus making it clearly visible to anyone trying to get to it. And if Reapers can track relay activity the same way Trainer did, and they have to be able to do that for that little bit of exposition to make sense, then they should know about all the traffic being routed there, and they do! Okay, admittedly, this is about par for my expectations of Cerberus.
But to make this all the more irritating, this facility is on Horizon, the world whose only colony 6 months ago was a collection of prefab shacks we saved for the Collector's last game. There is now, suddenly, an expansive facility meant to house millions of people. This makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. Oh, and Oriana is the one broadcasting a distress signal, meaning this is also the conclusion to Miranda's subplot as well, the woman having hacked video terminals throughout the complex to provide evidence of the sins the organization has committed, mainly as it's been run by her father, the father she hates, who is revealed to not only have been a significant Cerberus backer, but knew where Miranda was the entire time. Cerberus' true facility is under this one, where they have been using all of the refugees as test subjects in their attempt to learn how to control Reaper forces. However, they underestimated the signal these entities send to their commanding units, something that has never been established to exist before this, which is what is said to have led Reaper forces here instead of the ridiculously more obvious cause of relay traffic. And of course, all of this is treated as a Cerberus is the devil, how could we ever trust them? Bashing condemnation when we knew that from the first game. It's once more a long, boring, and tedious trek up to the Lawsons, with their familial discourse ended unceremoniously. Where's Kai Lang in all of this?
He was never here. Or rather, he had no legitimate reason to be here, considering Lawson Sr.'s research was a total failure, and Lang had the means Harper needed to learn how to control the Reapers with him, which this diversion could have placed in danger of being destroyed or lost. Worse, we had a legitimate reason to already know about this base. How? From Miranda calling us and requesting backup!
I mean, the pieces are right fucking there in the scene that leads us to her. They're without a lead. Miranda calls on the quantum entanglement communicator telling of this location. Boom! It was even set up and lampshaded earlier in the game that she'll call us in whenever her investigation requires backup. But she never does. And the reason she gives is ludicrous considering how much Cerberus has fucked over the war effort.
Made all the worse when we get the location of Cerberus' bases from this facility. Okay, technically Miranda encountered him and placed a tracker on him to provide us that, but, you see, then you remember because she's right fucking there! That Miranda already knows where it is, and just has not told us despite having every, and I do mean every, reason to do so far before this.
Seriously, look back at the opening cutscene of Mass Effect 2. She is physically in Harper's office. No holograms or other such crap, and the space station that holds their HQ is, and try to follow me on this, stationary!
This is why I keep restating that Mac Walters ignored everything from the past games for ME3, as that is so basically obvious, but is instead discarded for vapid drama of the this cinches it moment, where we can finally storm the bad guy's base. Instead, it just more highlights our own incompetence over not doing this far before this. Hell, there's no reason none of the former Cerberus personnel could not have supplied information like this. If you wanted to have this twist, an easy way around it would have been an earlier mission or exposition about storming the base, only to find it abandoned as they foresaw that happening. Then that provides the easy out of this later turn of finding this new base, which you can set wherever you want. Boom! Plot hole solved!
This is the last point in the game you can go do anything with any characters or locations before you're stuck back on the narrative rails through the game's conclusion, and where I pretty much did all of the DLCs I spotlighted last time. So if you're going to do anything else, you better do it now. And this includes if you want to actually do multiplayer, but as this is after patching the expansions of the DLC, while your total war asset rating might be half of its maximum potential, it should be doable. Unless, again, you played Renegade, which severely sunders those numbers. I got over 4,000 before the Cerberus base attack, and word is you're good if you have at least 3,500. Potentially 3,200 even. Regardless, as long as you reach the minimum requisite, you will see the Crucible completed and ready for deployment whenever.
Here's another problem about the Crucible project. Where is it even being built, and why have the Reapers not taken notice of it?
I mean, they had to have noticed all the traffic going to and from wherever it's being built. They go after us with even the smallest ping. They followed everyone and thing across space that even has the smallest trace of Element Zero. They are monitoring our comm traffic, and the device is not exactly a secret, and yet they never attack it once. Why?
I mean, we know they did this in Javik's cycle. The Protheans never got done. And we never found anything at all that might be it, which allows us to presume they destroyed it. And they have no intention of letting the cycle actually end, so why not take this thing away?
Oh, right, because it's easier to not think about these things, and thus everyone becomes a moron when someone has a pretty obvious revelation about these failures to act.
Hell, you know what's especially foolish about all that? Most of the available resources and manpower they could have put towards its construction could have been found on the Citadel or near the Serpent Nebula, literally a stone's throw away from it. Hell, constructing it within the control space of the Citadel would have made tactical sense, as if the Reapers ever actually came to the Citadel or went after the device like they should have, they could close the arms of it to defend it against destruction. And that way, it would already be near or connected to the Citadel for its eventual use, but they just didn't know the means of triggering it.
And moreover, every time we would visit the Citadel, we would then see the progress being made of it, see a sign of the effort everyone put together is making to complete it, give a sign of the choices we've made and what resources we've gained for the project are actually making a tangible good towards its completion.
But no, the more I think about it, the entire inclusion, execution, and delivery of the entire Crucible Deus Ex Machina, well, just makes it feel more and more like an idiot plot.
The attack gets underway, and we have the expected Paramore scene with Tally that's admittedly a lot more somber than the passionate, sexy times from last game. But as for two people who aren't sure they'll make it out of these final events alive, it works for me. Though what didn't is the removal of an invisible mask, and how we never actually see Tally's face.
Well, okay, they did give us a small photo of her without the mask taken on Rannoch, but it's actually pretty hard to see clearly due to the size of the photo and how they distorted the image. Even for what's visible, it was kind of a letdown. When, after all of this, we expected to see her face visible and actually on her body.
So yeah, we raid Cerberus' base with Edie and Tally, and there's some introspection from audio logs about how bad Shepard was off post-Planetfall that really could have been used last game. But this is where it's made clear how Walter's own personal canon is superseding player choice, and how despite blowing up the base, Cerberus still managed to salvage the human Reaper.
You know, keeping that from them, alongside the other tech of the place, is the entire reason we blew up the base, right? It's why we're given that option. But no, negated to give them the Reaper tech excuse for their supposed power in that game, which I have repeatedly slammed as a bad contrivance.
The discussion with Harper is likewise inexperienced in spinning wheels, and both sides saying absolutely nothing. Until Harper reveals that out of spite, he has revealed the Catalyst's location to the Reapers, who should already know about it, alongside the Crucible itself, which they should also know of, and that we've built it. And thus they immediately go and claim the Citadel.
Well, game over! Game fucking over! The second they make contact with the Citadel, we can no longer do anything to win. They'd shut the relays, we'd never get anywhere near the Serpent Nebula with standard FTL. Why would he do that?
Moreover, why the fuck would the Reapers not do that? Because they don't. They just take the Citadel and move it so it's over Earth.
Big problem with that, guys. See, it's a station. It's meant to be, I don't know, stationary.
From what we see later, though, it's likely the Citadel was originally purposed for what we saw from the Collector base. Also the facility permitting them to construct new Reapers from the biomass, to explain, at the very least, why they moved it to the planets actively undergoing biomass collection, making it all the more stupid for them to not claim it as the first thing they did.
No, seriously, why would Harper do that? Even if he was indoctrinated, which he is, that doesn't explain this, as it in and of itself makes his own plan to try and control the Reapers impossible.
I mean, why has he been sabotaging us all game in the first place? He wants the Crucible built, only he wants to use it to control. And it's not at all like the dynamic we saw with Saren, where his goal was corrupted by exposure to Nazara, but still had moments of total sanity where he saw what he was doing. Harper just spouts the same lines with absolutely no acknowledgement of their incongruity, only their idiocy.
And you know how you could have made all of this work? Just an idea off the top of my head. The Reaper IFF we got in the last game. It would not be that much of a stretch for it to contain the programming for a mass relay override code. Thus, growing from that idea, have the Reapers claim the Citadel and shut down the relays, only for us to realize we can remotely activate them with that code, which the Reapers seemingly use to bypass the lockout. Since we are shown in ME2 that Cerberus copied the code, we can likewise get it disseminated to Alliance forces, and then part of our travel is to get it out to everyone else. The Citadel being claimed thus facilitates the Crucible being built in a secret location. Hell, make it Shanxi so as to be a symbol of the galaxy coming together at the place where humanity first entered it.
And thus, this revelation of the space baby needed to get it to fire is in the Citadel would facilitate gathering the fleet together to assault them to use this superweapon. Hell, it would warrant not just the token forces were given, but everyone, because this is thus the magic bullet needed to end the war. And the Citadel is such a mainstay of the galactic society that retaking it is seen as important as saving a homeworld. I know I keep speaking alternate ways to do things which contradict each other, but really, there are just so many directions they could have taken the game in that work better than what they actually did.
And then we get the call that the Reapers took this thing to Earth, completely out of the blue, but is an inconsequential detail to us gathering the fleet needed to retake the Citadel for this thing to work. Hell, had we known this fact from the beginning, it would add context and meaning to why we focus more on military power than scientific intelligence or engineering resources for most of the game that otherwise has none. Because until this plot twist, the military powers we gather are unnecessary if the Crucible actually worked. They only become relevant to determining the outcome of this war after the Citadel is taken. And the taking of the Citadel is not only done off-screen with no resistance from everyone.
Oh, and speaking of, if the Citadel was claimed by the Reapers, automatically assume everyone that would have been on it is dead.
But no one knows of it until Harper tells us all of this. It's already happened with absolutely zero resistance.
But nope, Harper's off to face destiny. Well, we're left with Kai Lang.
And I only have one thing to say to Kai Lang.
That was for Thane, you son of a bitch. So now it's time to return to Earth with all the forces we've gathered and look at that massive armada. Every bit of effort we put in here through the game is actually shown to have a payoff. And I don't feel anything.
Seriously, I don't feel anything. I get more satisfaction out of the perfect soul gathering in Lightning Returns. And I'm pretty sure by now you all know how much I utterly despise that game. 'Cause here's the thing. I've seen this done better all across science fiction.
From the likes of the Long Dominion War in Star Trek DS9, to opposing the Shadows and Vorlons in Babylon 5, to even Voyager gathering its ragtag fleet to oppose the Krenim timeships as it felt as if all of space-time was at stake. Stargate's SG-1 and Atlantis did this on multiple occasions to varying odds and margins of success, and Gundam pulls this at least once a series as part of the final stand against the climactic superweapon of the year. Super Sentai has darkened the skies with ships, and Gao Gaigar destroyed armadas with a hammer that can destroy a fucking sun. Even with things not set in space, you can see the gathering of ground armies, tanks and militia that give off more of a feeling of importance than this does. That it's almost a trope in how often it's seen. But because nothing at all has made me invested in this battle throughout this game, I don't have any feelings towards it, and thus the drama of the situation is entirely lost on me.
How do you screw up a space battle and make it boring?
Well, that's not the focus of our activities. No space battle for us yet again. Why do you keep forgetting to give us that, BioWare? For us, it's down to the trenches so we can get on board the Citadel, because somehow it's now sending a transportation beam from the surface all the way up inside it so it can take all the harvested biomass for Reaper construction.
Which, when you think about this again, is asinine, as it's horribly inefficient to have this one means of collecting this biomatter into this one structure, let alone this being the only means by which to construct more Reapers. Hell, the collector ship could harvest victims far faster, and they were just shoving people into fucking stasis pods for transport to the actual facility.
There's a few interim levels here of us fighting through sieges, but it's mostly just an extended slog. And as I said before, once we actually get to the base for the final push so we can have moments of goodbye and closure with everyone, well, frankly, this was better given in the Citadel DLC than it is in any respect here. So finally, we blow up the Reaper standing in our way, and head down to the gravity beam going into the Citadel.
Now, as people that are even vaguely aware of this game know, this is where the extended ending DLC comes in, because the original presentation of everything in this stretch was in its entirety half-assed and completely unfinished. As I have also stated, I didn't become a Mass Effect player until after this whole controversy over how bad it was, thus I only have what was showcased by others concerning this, and others' acknowledgement of what was changed.
But we didn't have this tragic separation of Shepard from his team in Paramore, which in context is pretty damn stupid considering they're fucking under fire from Harbinger.
Why is Harbinger even here? He's done absolutely nothing this entire game.
Which is still better than it was originally when they were all forgotten. Because everyone is charging to get to that beam, instead of trying to secure the area around it before Harbinger even gets involved. We're all summarily mowed down by its energy beams, which is yet another moment where it should be fucking game over as each of those beams is shown to utterly pierce and atomize any defense. The scene fading to white, trying to make it ambiguous whether we are hit or not.
When, in reality, it makes us question whether any of this afterwards is even real, or is just a hallucination or a nightmare we see happen instead of really occurring.
Hell, why didn't we just dodge the blast? Thanks to that idiotic sequence on Rannoch, we know intellectually we can do that, which ends the entire ambiguity of this scene.
No, it's entirely done to facilitate us losing every piece of equipment we have and putting Shepard unnecessarily on death's door, but is once again putting bullshit drama over details as, with how it's depicting things, we should be dead. Again.
But at some point Shepard wakes up, bruised, bloodied, and with only a single handgun, and we make our way up to the Citadel, and a section of the building that architecturally makes no sense and is entirely distaffed from any inner working of the place we have ever seen. In which is somehow Anderson, which doesn't make sense in how he got up here when we didn't, and Harper, who likewise has arrived here without explanation, and they proceed to argue over whether they can control the Reapers or not. It is a conversation that goes absolutely nowhere, albeit with Harper now showing he can remote control people in the same way the Leviathans do, which initially was evidenced from this being indoctrination theory stuff all in Shepard's head. Harper here being a personification of the half of Shepard that's indoctrinated, but again, that theory was debunked despite it making so much more fucking sense. Especially since you are once again not allowed to actually talk to him, you are simply talked at. We're not allowed to reason, we're not allowed to talk to him, and work out how his entire control plan is asinine. How the Protheans and before, or even Cerberus' other efforts have shown, this cannot work. There is never a point where you can reach through the blindness of his zealotry, or ME3 Shepard's own idiocy, to make him realize he's become everything he hates. Because this is all the writer sees of him and our protagonist. He does not see a man who's taken Black Ops stratagems too far out of fear and paranoia. He sees just another insane mastermind who doesn't see what's really before him.
I've dedicated my life to understanding the Reapers, and I know with certainty the Crucible will allow me to control them.
What do you gain from controlling the Reapers? Power? Technology? Dominance over other races? Immortality? Infinite rice pudding? What is your end goal?
'Cause the truth is, the entire game, Harper doesn't have one. Everything he's done the entire game works in contradiction of his wish for human safety and supremacy. Every single one. This is not something you can justify through indoctrination, and once again I cite the example of Saren. He believed so hard that allying with Nazar would lead to his race's salvation from the cycle that he became the very threat he was trying to protect them against, and he didn't even know it. But as we talked him into killing himself, he at the end recognized what he did, even through the lens of indoctrination. Harper has no such defense, as what he did worked in defiance of achieving his goals.
Jack Harper is simply another character this game assassinated.
So now that Harper's dead, the console behind him opens up, the Citadel, so it can connect to the Crucible, and nothing happens.
Great! Glad we spent all that time and resources on a device that doesn't even work. Methinks this should have been something you tested.
But no. As Shepard collapses in front of the console, a platform activates, taking him to...
Finally. I've been stuck in this elevator for hours. The hell? Sorry it took so long for you to get here. How can I help you?